My husband kept testing my loyalty, so I set one test he couldn't pass. I'm Claire 31F. My husband Ethan 33M, and I have been married 4 years. We both work, we rent a place, and our life used to run on routines. No kids yet, no constant fights, just normal days. This started after Ethan heard about an affair fallout at his job. A coworker's marriage imploded, and everyone talked about it. Ethan kept repeating that people never really know their spouse. At first it sounded like a story. Then it became his lens for everything I did. He began asking for details he never needed before. If I met a friend, he wanted names, exact times, and when I would be back. If I ran errands, he wanted a timeline. He expected a text when I arrived somewhere, and another when I left. I did it because it sounded small, and I assumed it would fade. Then the test started. One evening, his wallet was left open on the counter with cash visible, placed like a display. Later he asked if I noticed it, watching my reaction. I handed it to him and he looked relieved, not normal. A few days later, he said he would work late, then came home early. He did not greet me. He scanned the room and then studied my face like he expected a wrong answer. I tried to joke about him acting like a detective. He stayed serious and repeated, "You never know." After that, daily life turned into checks. If I took a call, he asked who it was. If I paused before answering, he leaned in. If I was quiet, he asked what I was thinking about. He started showing up where I said I would be. A quick hello at the same cafe or a drive through the same parking lot, always framed as coincidence. I tried to address it directly. I asked if work was stressing him out or if something had happened. He insisted nothing was wrong and called it being careful. Like this was just smart marriage hygiene. Then a social trap appeared. Ethan's friend Mark, who I barely spoke to before, started messaging me. It began as jokes, then slid into flirty comments. I shut it down immediately and showed Ethan, expecting him to shut Mark down. Instead, Ethan focused on me. He wanted exact wording, exact timing, and how fast I replied, like he was grading my answers. By then the pattern was clear. Ethan was not trying to feel close to me. He was trying to gather proof to calm his suspicion, and he kept setting me up to earn it. The worst one was a manufactured crisis. Ethan called sounding urgent and demanded help right away. I dropped what I was doing. Later he admitted the issue was already handled, and he only wanted to see what I would do. That night, I drew a hard line. No more traps, no more setups, no more tests. I was not going to live like a suspect in my own home. Ethan promised he would stop, but it sounded like a pause, not a change. So I stopped debating and started tracking the coincidences, for my clarity, because if loyalty tests were becoming normal, I needed one clean boundary test to see whether Ethan could choose trust. The next morning, I opened a notes file on my phone and started logging everything in one place. Dates, times, what happened, where it happened. I added screenshots of messages. I saved call logs. I did it because the constant follow-up questions were turning simple days into quizzes, and I wanted a clean record instead of arguing about memory. Ethan's promise to stop lasted maybe 2 days. After dinner one night, he asked to see my call history for peace of mind. It was presented like a harmless request, like checking the weather. When I paused, the tone changed fast. The request became a test by itself. I did not hand over my phone. I asked why he needed it. He acted offended, like I was hiding something, and moved on without dropping it. The timeline questions got worse. If I went to the grocery store, he wanted the exact route. If I stopped for gas, he wanted the receipt time. If my commute was 5 minutes longer than usual, he wanted an explanation. Even normal things became suspicious to him, like a missed turn could be a lie. A few days later, my car started making a faint rattle in the driver's door. It was the kind of sound you ignore until it keeps happening. I pulled into our driveway, opened the door, and pressed along the inside panel. The rattle was deeper than the pocket. I got a flashlight, found a loose edge in the panel, slid my fingers into the gap, and felt something tucked far inside the lining. It was a small round tracker. I did not throw it away. I took photos of it where it was. Then I pulled it out carefully and kept it with me. It was an Apple AirTag, and it was not mine. I checked my keys, my bag, and my other devices just to make sure I was not missing something. Nothing I owned used one. That night I placed it on the kitchen table and waited until Ethan came in. No yelling, no scenes, just the tracker sitting between us like a receipt. He tried confusion first. A lot of shrugging and possibilities. Maybe it fell in somehow. Maybe someone dropped it. Maybe the mechanic. It did not match the placement, and it did not match the timing, and it did not match how often he had been nearby anyway. I stayed quiet and kept looking at him. The story changed. The AirTag became for safety. The framing became protective. The logic was supposed to be simple. People are dangerous, so tracking is care. The problem was also simple. Safety is something you talk about. Secret tracking is surveillance. Then the real reason came out. Ethan brought up that coworker story again, and the way he had been spiraling around it. He kept circling back to needing to be sure, not wanting to look stupid, not wanting to be fooled. Like my marriage was a trap he had to outsmart. One more detail slipped out while he tried to justify it. Mark's messages were not random. Mark was not flirting because Mark was bored. It was arranged. Mark was supposed to push the line and report back. That explained why Ethan wanted exact wording and timestamps that day. It was not support, it was grading. I did not threaten. I did not pack a bag in the middle of the night. I kept it practical and measurable. 1 full week with no investigative behavior, no tracking, no surprise appearances, no bait through other people, no questions designed to trap me. Normal affection was fine. Normal conversation was fine. Investigations were not. Ethan tried to find loopholes immediately. What counts as checking? What if he is worried? What if he just happens to be nearby? I kept it simple. If it is meant to confirm, test, or verify me, it stops. Then I decided the next step would be clean and undeniable. I was going to give Ethan one easy chance to respect a boundary in a normal situation, with no drama and no confusion, so whatever happened next would depend only on his choices. On the 5th night of that week, I picked something normal and easy to measure, a work dinner that was already on the calendar. Not a secret meetup, not a last-minute plan, a reservation, coworkers, and a clear end time. Before I left, I set the expectation once. One message when I arrived safely. No showing up, no calling the restaurant, no sending anyone to check. No questions afterward meant to confirm details. The rule was simple. 1 evening without surveillance. Ethan acted calm about it. He stayed relaxed, did not argue, and moved around the kitchen like this was finally over. He even reminded me to have fun, like he wanted credit for being normal. I drove to the restaurant and texted that I arrived. Then I put my phone away and stayed at the table. The dinner was basic work talk and food. Nothing dramatic. About 40 minutes in, one of my coworkers pulled me aside near the hallway by the restrooms. The host stand had mentioned an odd call earlier. A man who gave my name and the reservation time asked who was in the party and tried to confirm the details. Staff did not like it, and my coworker only told me because the timing was too specific. I stepped outside and called Ethan once. No long conversation. One direct question about whether he contacted the restaurant. The denial came fast and clipped, like it was already prepared. I went back inside, but I did not sit down right away. The front windows faced the street. From the angle near the entrance, the parking across the road was visible. Ethan's car was there, positioned to watch the doors. Not parked near other cars like a quick stop. It was lined up with the entrance. I took a photo from inside the restaurant, making sure the car and the street sign were in frame. Then I returned to the table, my pulse racing and my hands shaking under the table, and finished the next few minutes like nothing happened. No scene, no announcement, just dinner. My phone buzzed with a text. Just checking you're okay. It was written to sound caring, but it landed right on top of the restaurant call in the car outside. I replied once that I was fine and he needed to go home. Nothing changed. The car stayed. I ended the dinner early and left with a coworker, not because I needed a rescue, but because I refused to deal with a confrontation alone in a parking lot at night. We walked out together. Ethan got out of his car quickly, already in motion like he had been waiting for the exact moment. The first thing he tried was turning it into coincidence. He was nearby anyway, he just wanted to make sure. Then small details started slipping out that he should not have known, like the exact reservation time and the section we were seated in. That matched the restaurant call more than any coincidence. I did not debate it on the sidewalk. The boundary was one evening without surveillance. He broke it in more than one way. He shifted to bargaining right there on the curb. Apologies mixed with excuses. Promises mixed with explanations. A request for me to come home immediately, like the problem was my reaction instead of his actions. The bargaining kept changing shape, but it stayed focused on one thing: access. I told him I was not going home with him. I got into my coworker's car and we drove straight to my sister Jenna's place. I sent one message after I arrived: I needed space and I would only handle logistics going forward. The test did its job. It showed that even the easiest boundary only lasted until Ethan felt entitled to verify me. From that point on, the next step stopped being about talks and promises and started being about protection and logistics. I stayed at my sister Jenna's place that night. I did not unpack, just set my bag by the couch and kept my shoes close. Sleep came in short bursts. Every time my phone lit up, it was Ethan again. By morning, my call log looked ridiculous. Missed calls stacked on missed calls. Text bounced between apologies and demands. The pattern stayed the same, not checking if I was safe, not asking what I needed, just trying to pull me back into a conversation he could control. I sent one message and kept it tight. I needed space. I would not meet alone. Any communication had to be limited to logistics. After that, I stopped replying. Jenna insisted I should not go back to the house alone, even for basics. Around midday, we drove over together to grab essentials and my work laptop. We parked where we could leave easily. I kept my keys in my hand, not buried in my bag. Ethan had told me the night before that he would give space. He was home anyway, not in a casual way either. He was in the main room like he was waiting for the door to open. The timing was too perfect, like he expected exactly when I would show. Jenna stayed right beside me. I repeated the same line every time Ethan tried to change the topic. Essentials only. Nothing else. He tried to control the moment with his body instead of words, stepping into doorways, hovering too close behind me when I moved, turning sideways like a gate. I kept my voice calm and clear, and told him not to block me. Then I walked around him. Jenna stayed between us when needed. Inside the house, small details jumped out fast. A charging cable on the side table that I had never seen before. The office drawer slightly open when I always keep it shut. A couple of papers shifted on my desk, like someone had flipped through them quickly and tried to put them back. I grabbed my laptop and a few clothes. Jenna collected toiletries and my basic documents. We avoided lingering. Ethan followed us room to room talking non-stop about safety and being smart, using Mark's name like it was a shield. Mark's messages. Mark's test. Mark's idea. Like bringing Mark up made everything less serious. Before we left, I checked my car. Not a quick glance, a real check. I opened compartments, looked under seats, and then lifted the spare tire cover in the trunk. Taped beneath it was another small device, flat and dark, stuck down with strong adhesive. Jenna stopped me from touching it. We documented first. I took multiple photos from different angles, including the exact placement and the tape edges. Jenna took a short video showing the trunk, the spare tire cover, and the device in the same shot. Back inside, I opened the cabinet where Ethan keeps old electronics, partly to grab a spare charger. A phone I did not recognize was sitting there, powered on, like he had been using it that morning, and forgot to hide it. Next to it was a handwritten list on plain paper. It was my week laid out like a schedule. Errands with times next to them, grocery run, pharmacy stop, coffee pickup. Stuff I never announced like an itinerary. I asked one direct question: what was he trying to catch? The answer came out in pieces, but it was clear enough. The point was to see if I would run to someone else if I was upset. That ended the last bit of normal conversation. I made the next boundary practical. I was not staying in the home. The only things left to discuss were necessary logistics, and it would happen through controlled channels. Before we left, I turned off location sharing across every app I could find, right there in the driveway. I scheduled a carrier visit to change my number. I sent one final message: any further tracking or monitoring would be documented and handled formally. Jenna drove. Ethan shouted from the driveway as we pulled away, and it was the clearest proof of the problem. Even my exit had to be a fight for control. The next day I treated safety like a checklist, not a conversation. Jenna drove me to my phone carrier as soon as they opened. I changed my number, reset my account password, and added a security pin so no one could make changes without it. And after that, the calls and texts to my phone finally stopped. Then I went through every login I could think of: email, banking, social apps, cloud storage, shopping accounts, new passwords, two-factor authentication, and sign-outs on all devices. Anything that was shared got split or closed. Anything that had Ethan's access got removed. After that, I took my car to a mechanic and asked for a quick inspection, specifically for tracking devices. I showed them the photos of what I found under the spare tire cover. The mechanic checked the obvious spots, then looked underneath. They did not find another device, but they did find adhesive residue under the rear bumper, like something had been stuck there recently and removed. The mechanic wrote it on the invoice when I asked for documentation. That afternoon, I met with a family law attorney. I brought printed screenshots, the photos of the AirTag, the photos and video of the second device, and the notes file with dates and times. I laid it out in order: the tests, the arranged date with Mark, the restaurant call, the car across the street, the devices, the burner phone, the errand list. The attorney gave me a clear plan: keep documenting, do not engage in emotional back and forth, move all communication into one controlled channel, build a paper trail for court if needed. They also explained what counts as harassment and what supports temporary court orders, especially when tracking and repeated unwanted appearances are involved. That night, I created a new email address, meant only for logistics and legal communication. I sent Ethan one message from it, stating that if he needed to communicate about bills, mail, or property, it had to go there. Then I stopped responding anywhere else. He ignored it fast. Within a day, he showed up outside Jenna's building and waited near the entrance like he was on patrol. I did not go outside. Jenna told him to leave from the intercom and then from behind the locked door when he tried to linger. He stayed long enough that a neighbor noticed. I contacted building management and asked them to document the visit. I gave them his name and a description of the car. I asked them to note dates and times if he returned. I also told my manager and workplace security what was happening. I kept it short and factual. My husband had been tracking my car and showing up uninvited, and there was a chance he would appear at work. Security asked for his photo and car description. 2 days later, he did. He was in the parking lot in his car, positioned where he could watch the entrance. It looked like the restaurant all over again, just in daylight. Security approached him and instructed him to leave. I stayed inside and did not meet him. My attorney sent a formal cease and desist notice after that. It demanded he stop all tracking, stop appearing at Jenna's building and my workplace, and keep communication to the designated email only. It also stated that further violations would be used to support court action. Around the same time, Mark tried to message me like nothing happened. A casual, friendly text, like he was checking in. I did not respond. I blocked him once, permanently. Then I filed a police report about the tracking devices. I brought the photos, the timeline, and the physical items I still had, including the AirTag. The goal was an official record, not an argument. That evening, an email hit the logistics address from Ethan with a deal. He would stop if I came home and apologized for embarrassing him. I did not reply. I forwarded it to my attorney. The next step went on paper. I filed for legal separation and requested temporary orders addressing contact and access. I stopped relying on Ethan to agree to boundaries. I moved toward structure that would exist whether he liked it or not. After Ethan was served, he used the only channel left and flooded the logistics email. The messages came in clusters, sometimes 10 in a day. The main theme was the same. I set him up. He claimed I planned the work dinner to make him fail. He wrote that the restaurant call was a misunderstanding, the car across the street was a coincidence, and the trackers were for safety. Then he jumped straight into insults and accusations when those excuses did not land. I did not respond to a single one. Every email got forwarded to my attorney. I kept my days narrow and steady on purpose. Go to work, come back to Jenna's, eat, sleep, and handle paperwork. No phone calls with Ethan, no quick replies, no long explanations, just a record. He tried to take the story outside the email too. Mutual friends started reaching out with confused messages, repeating that I left for no reason. I did not do a group chat. I did not defend myself in circles. When someone asked directly, I used one sentence: there were tracking devices. Then I stopped. That was enough to change the tone of most conversations. A few people went quiet. A few asked for details. I did not give details. I kept it simple and factual. Mark panicked next. He did not contact me directly because he was blocked. Instead, he tried to reach Jenna through a third person, like he was looking for a backdoor. Jenna did not entertain it. She sent one short reply telling him any communication had to be in writing through my attorney. I allowed exactly one controlled step from Mark: a written statement sent to my attorney. No calls, no meeting, no explanation over coffee. If he wanted to speak, it would be on paper. The statement came in 2 days later. It confirmed what Ethan had already slipped during our argument. Ethan told Mark to flirt and report back. When I shut it down, Ethan called that proof I was careful, not proof I was loyal. Mark wrote that Ethan treated my normal behavior like evidence I was hiding something. Mark also admitted Ethan pushed for more than one message attempt and wanted updates afterward. My attorney saved it and added it to the file. Then Ethan shifted tactics again, straight into money. I got an alert from our bank about a transfer attempt from a joint account. It was labeled as for protection. The amount was large enough to matter. I called the bank from Jenna's kitchen table and asked what I could freeze and what I could not. Then I called my attorney. Within hours, we moved to separate finances cleanly. New account for my paycheck. Joint cards closed were permitted, notes logged, screenshots taken. Anything that could not be closed got monitored. After that, my attorney recommended one trip to the marital home with a civil standby to collect remaining essentials and important documents. One trip only, to avoid repeated contact and repeated chances for Ethan to create conflict. We scheduled it. The officer met us at the curb. Jenna came with me again. I walked in with a list and a box: passport, birth certificate, tax records, title paperwork, spare keys, a few personal items. Fast and boring. Ethan showed up anyway and refused to keep distance. He tried to stand close, talk over everyone, and turn it into a conversation. The civil standby instructed him to step back and stop interfering. Ethan raised his voice and tried to shame me, framing his behavior as what a loyal husband does. I kept it short in front of witnesses. Loyalty is not something you force through surveillance. Then I went back to packing. Between the documented trackers, the workplace appearance, the building visit, the email pressure, and now the civil standby incident, the pattern was hard to ignore. My attorney pushed for stricter temporary orders. A few weeks later, the judge granted temporary orders limiting contact and restricting where Ethan could show up. Communication for anything necessary had to go through attorneys. With that order in place, my next steps became plain and forward-moving: secure housing, finalize financial separation, and keep all future contact controlled. No cycles, no reopenings, no one more talk. The temporary court orders changed my day-to-day immediately because rules existed outside the marriage now. Ethan could not turn a boundary into a debate. If he showed up where he was not allowed, it was not a misunderstanding, it was a violation with a paper trail. The first thing I did was secure housing. I found a small one-bedroom near my job and signed the lease under my name only. I picked a building with controlled entry and a management office that agreed in writing not to give out my unit number or schedule to anyone. I set move-in for the earliest date available and kept the address limited to a short list. I set up the boring safety steps once, then stopped changing things again and again. I rented a post office box and moved my mail there. I tightened privacy settings on every account I used. I wrote down who was allowed to know my address and who was not. Jenna had it. My attorney had it. My manager had it for emergency contact only. That was the list. Financial separation became clean and dull. I switched direct deposit to my individual account. I closed joint cards where the bank allowed it. For anything that could not be closed immediately, my attorney drafted a written plan for shared bills until the case ended, so there was no reason for casual check-ins. All communication stayed attorney to attorney except what the court required. Ethan lost the ability to call it a conversation and turn it into an interrogation. When he tried to push for a private meeting through legal messaging, it got handled the same way every time. No. If there was something needed, it could be put in writing through counsel. A week after I moved in, Jenna called during lunch. Building staff at my new place reported a man asking questions about my unit and when I usually came and went. They did not give him information, but they logged it and told Jenna because she was listed as an emergency contact. I did not go hunting for proof. I documented what the staff reported, asked management for the written note, and forwarded it to my attorney and the enforcement contact tied to the court order. The next day, my attorney confirmed that Ethan had been observed near the building and a formal warning was issued. Whether he called it a coincidence did not matter when the pattern was consistent. Mark tried one last indirect reach, too. A mutual acquaintance sent a message asking if I could remove his name from anything because he was worried about consequences. I did not respond, and I did not send messages through anyone. My attorney already had Mark's statement, and it stayed there. A few days later, my attorney received an updated written statement from Mark anyway. It confirmed Ethan pushed him to act as bait more than once, and even suggested staging accidental encounters so it would look natural. The statement went straight into the file. At that point, the case stopped being about opinions. There were dates, devices, photos, invoices, building reports, workplace security records, and written statements. It was conduct documented. Ethan's legal tone shifted after that. The emotional emails stopped because he could not reach me directly. The new angle was transactional. He suddenly wanted fast signatures and quick settlement terms. My attorney kept the pace steady and refused shortcuts. The final agreement followed the paper trail for property division. The boundaries around contact were written clearly and enforceable. No informal check-ins, no surprise visits, no just one conversation requests. When it was allowed, I took one final step for peace. I blocked Ethan everywhere I could without violating the court rules. From that point forward, he had no personal channel to reach me. Anything necessary went through attorneys only. The end of it did not arrive with a dramatic moment. It landed in an ordinary one, unpacking a box in my apartment, setting my keys in the same spot, and locking the door behind me. Ethan's loyalty tests were never about love. They were demands that I accept being managed. My test was the minimum. Respect one boundary for one evening. He failed because he wanted control, not partnership. And I moved on into a life where trust is not measured by traps.